What's up, Haunters? Today we're talking about the worst Halloween animatronic ripoffs of all time, so let's get started.
Be this tender morsel disturbing my slumber.
So first of all, we got a ripoff of the Towering Witch, which is probably one of my favorite props of all time, and here's the ripoff. Honestly, I've got to say they've done a pretty alright job ripping this one off. It looks pretty similar to Towering Witch with the way the creepy cloth is and the way its arms are positioned. And its face looks pretty similar too, but that's only really because every single witch prop looks the same. One thing that they got wrong with this prop ripoff is it's supposed to be a Towering Witch and not a 5-foot witch. Anyways, for on the scale of how good they ripped off this animatronic, I'm gonna have to give it a good 6.3.
Trespasser. These ones are private.
And next up, let's check out a ripoff of the Deadly Roots animatronic, which this ripoff is one that I honestly just do not like. This one doesn't really look too much like Deadly Roots or even a tree at all. Looks more like some sort of weird creature with a wooden head. This one I was also able to find quite a few ripoffs of, so I guess they really like this animatronic. Anyways, not the greatest ripoff, and on the scale, it's going to get a 3.8. So next up, we got a ripoff of the limb-eating zombie, which is one of my favorite techie props of all time, and here's the ripoff. So this prop, you may be wondering how it's a ripoff of the limb-eating zombie boy, because it's just a creepy girl prop, but once you see its animation, you'll notice that it chomps down that arm just like the creepy zombie boy. I do have to say, unlike most ripoffs, I like that they actually chose a different design for it, but they still kind of chose the same mechanism, which kind of makes it a ripoff. But anyways, this prop, they did a pretty good job ripping it off, so for me, it's going to get a 7.2.
Put a smile on that face of yours.
So next up, we got a ripoff of the Jack-in-the-Box animatronic, which this animatronic I really love. I love how big he is, but this ripoff is not that good. The thing that makes this ripoff not that good is the proportions are all off. The clown is supposed to be way bigger than the box, but yet it's just a tiny clown on top of the pole. And also, how is the clown so high up in the air? Because I don't believe that spring would be strong enough to push him up that high. Anyways, not the greatest ripoff, and on the scale, I'm gonna have to give it a 4.7.
With the 12-foot giant skeleton with life eyes.
So coming up next, we got a ripoff of the very popular 12-foot skeleton, and this ripoff is known as the 10-foot skeleton. I saw this thing when I went to Halloween Alley back a few weeks ago, and honestly, it looks pretty much like the 12-foot skeleton. It is slightly shorter, which is a downside, but it does look like a skeleton, and it doesn't really look like a ripoff. Since it is a ripoff, though, I do assume the quality isn't as good, but they did still do a good job making it. This one I think is the best ripoff of all time, but still not as good as the 12-foot skeleton, but on the ranking, I'm gonna have to put it at an 8.6. And next up, we got a ripoff of my favorite horror movie character, Sam, and this ripoff is very disappointing. I was able to find this ripoff along with a 10-foot skeleton over at Halloween Alley, and at first from far away, I thought this thing was an actual Sam animatronic. But then once I got up close, I realized it wasn't, it was just a ripoff, and this thing, it's pretty good how they ripped it off. It doesn't look too much like Sam up close, but the face, they really did a good job on. Now, the head is more of a skull and not much of a pumpkin, but I understand why they did that, because who would ever want to pay for licensing fees? Anyways, I don't really like this ripoff, and on the scale, it's getting a 2.9. And now quickly before we get into the last prop we're talking about today, I just want to give a couple of honorable mentions to props that almost made the video. First of all, we got this prop, which is a ripoff of Barnyard Butcher, but I decided not to include it because even though it looks slightly like Barnyard Butcher, it's not good enough to be a ripoff. Then I saw quite a few of these props that are supposed to be ripoffs of Heckles, but the only really thing that looks similar is the balloon and the head, and other than that, they don't look similar enough to be a ripoff of Heckles. And finally, there's the Witch Trio, which this one I decided not to talk about because I talked about before in a prop ripoffs video. But now let's check out the last prop ripoff on the list. So for the last prop ripoff, we got one of the Crouching Clown, and here it is. This prop ripoff is probably one of the most obvious ones of all time because it looks exactly like the Crouching Clown. Honestly, I've got to say, Sunstar, you did a really good job of capturing the look of this animatronic. The face, the color scheme, the clothing, just everything looks like the Crouching Clown. This thing I'm going to put at an 8 on the scale just because of how good of a job they did at ripping this animatronic off. So with all that said, that is it for today's video, everyone. Hopefully you did enjoy. Inspiration for this video goes to the pixelated pumpkin. I've been watching lots of your prop rip-off videos over the years, and they're always really good, so I decided to make my own. Anyways, please make sure that you've liked the video and comment down below your thoughts on these prop rip-offs, and you can also join my Discord, which I have linked down below, and I'll see you all in the next upload. Goodbye.